the Prophet ﷺ, he said that a woman who has been married before, she should be given the decision when she is being married off. لا تنكح الأيم حتى تستأمر, until she is questioned or she's asked and she's given her choice whether you want to get married to this man or not. Okay? However, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَا تُنْكَحُ الْبِكْرُ حَتَّى تُسْتَأْذَنْ. As for a woman who happens to be a virgin, she shouldn't be married except until he's just asked. So the first one, she's given the choice. Okay? So basically, if the father wants to marry her off to someone, she can veto that and say, you know what, I don't want this man, because she knows how men are, she's been in a relationship before, she knows what a relationship entails, etc. So the Prophet ﷺ gave her the veto power that, you know what, you can decide on your own. And for the second one, the Prophet ﷺ said, for the virgin, the Prophet ﷺ said, she should still be asked for permission at least. Okay? Now, many people, they end up looking at this hadith and they understand the opposite of what the Prophet is saying. So they say that in the case of the virgin, the Prophet ﷺ actually said that she should be married and only her permission should be sought. Meaning it's not necessary, she doesn't have a veto power in this particular case. Now, I say that in terms of legalities, this may be true, technically speaking. But if you take the words of the Prophet ﷺ, that's not what he's trying to encourage here. Okay? The problem with us, a lot of people, is that we end up seeing what the books of fiqh say without remembering that books of fiqh happen to be books of law. And we often, in our interactions with one another, we resort to books of law when we disagree, when there's a disagreement. In normal circumstances, we don't pull out the books of law and say, look, it's halal for me to do this. Look, it's technically okay for me to force you into marriage. A man says to his daughter, for instance. Why? Because this madhab said, or that madhab said, etc. That's not the type of thing that these people who are codifying Islamic law were even thinking. Because the books of Islamic law were not accessible through Google searches in the past. They were given to judges. Literally, the books of Islamic law, they were primarily used for what? They were used by judges. And that's why in every country where the judicial system would be based on one madhab, the books of that madhab would be readily available, and the people would primarily study that madhab as well, because through this madhab they would become lawyers and judges. Do you understand? So you don't bring the letter of the law when we're dealing with practical real life situations. This is very, very important, because many parents, they end up forcing their daughters into marriage, just saying that technically, based on the letter of the law, I'm allowed to do this. And then the miskina, she goes through a lot of trouble within her life. She hates her father and hates her husband and hates everyone involved because she was forced into marriage, right? So we say that leave the technicalities aside. Look at what the Prophet is saying. He's saying that a woman who has been in a relationship before, she's a ayyim or a thayyib, she is given the authority completely, i.e. she has the veto power if her father wants to get her married to someone else. As for a woman who's not been in that relationship, she's a virgin, then she should still be asked for permission. Now, they asked, how do we know she's giving the permission, O Prophet of Allah? The Prophet ﷺ said, "An taskut," that she is silent. Now imagine what the Prophet would say if she's screaming out loud saying, I don't want this man. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? But people, they take the letter of the law and they say, you know what, technically I'm right, the Sharia is on my side. Even if it is on your side, technicalities are not used in real life always, okay? This is very, very important to note. Technicalities just means, okay, this contract was valid. Doesn't mean it was the best thing to do. Doesn't mean it was the most ethical thing to do. Doesn't mean there was the best interest for your daughter as well. That's why what I encourage is that if you have a daughter, then give them an opportunity to decide. They're going to be living the life. You know, many parents, they're like, you know, we also have to make sure the parents are right. Why? Because how are we going to have... you're not going to have a very long relationship anyways with the parents. The daughter is going to be all the time with that husband, and the husband will be most of the time with that wife as well. So let them decide on their own. Even if you have a poor relationship with the parent-in-laws, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that the husband and the wife, they have a good relationship with each other. That's what matters. You don't have to play footsies with the parent-in-laws. Okay, you don't have to be buddies with them. It doesn't have, many times you think that they're going to be great people, but later on you get into a fight as well. So how do you know? So that's why let them decide, let them come to an agreement. If that family, if that individual is in the best interest of the daughter, and that girl happens to be in the best interest of that man, then Bismillah. Right?